Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Tonight, we'll journey into the world of ancient Egyptian mythology, where gods ride the sun through the sky, where desert winds whisper secrets of life and death, and where stories are etched into stone. Beneath stars that watched over the Nile for thousands of years, these are tales to drift away to, told softly, slowly, not just to entertain, but to comfort. And in this collection, you'll hear 6 of them, each drawn from the deep sands of Egyptian legend, each told in a gentle voice, perfect for sleep, relaxation, or simply letting your thoughts float like a boat upon the sacred river. We'll begin with the story of Ra and the creation of the world, a myth of light and shadow, where the great sun god rises from the waters of chaos and breathes the first gods into being. You'll hear how the world was shaped, how the sky and earth came to be, and how divine order was born from silence. Next, we follow the powerful and tragic tale of Osiris, Isis, and the cycle of life and death. Osiris, the just king, betrayed by his brother Set, is torn apart, and yet, through the unwavering love and magic of Isis, he finds a new purpose in the land of the dead. It's a story of grief, devotion, and rebirth. Our third tale tells of Horus and the Eye of Ra, the falcon-headed god of the sky, locked in battle with Set for the throne of Egypt. We'll hear of wisdom, courage, and the fierce justice of divine children protecting what is sacred. Then we slow down for the haunting beauty of the weighing of the heart, a quiet journey into the afterlife, where the soul must face judgment in the hall of Mat. With the scales balanced against a feather, we explore the gentle wisdom of a culture that believed truth and kindness was stronger than death. After that, we step into mystery with the tale of the sun's journey through the underworld, a nightly voyage of Ra through Duat, the realm of spirits and shadows. Alongside gods and serpents, he travels through each hour of night to rise again, bringing light to the world once more. Finally, we end with the story of Set and the Red Land, a tale of storms, desert winds, and the wild forces of change. Though often cast as a villain, Set holds a place in the balance of all things. His story reminds us that chaos, too, has its place in the grand design. If you enjoy the video and the stories within, I would be truly grateful if you'd take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more listeners find our stories and allows us to continue sharing these myths in a way that brings calm and quiet to your day or night. So now, settle in, close your eyes, or simply rest your mind, and let the ancient winds of Egypt carry you away. Tale 1: Ra and the creation of the world before the dawn of time. Before anything was formed or named, there was only none. None was the infinite, boundless ocean, a vast sea of dark, still waters stretching beyond all horizons. There was no sky to arch above, no earth to stand upon, no sun to light the darkness, no stars to glimmer faintly in the void. There was only endless silence, the primordial deep holding within it all potential, the seed of everything that would come to be. This ocean was not like the seas known to mortal eyes. It was still, silent, eternal. Its waters neither rose nor fell, but rested in perfect calm, holding the promise of creation hidden beneath its surface. In the vastness of none, the dark and the deep were one. There was no light, no shape, no Sound only endless possibility. From this stillness, from the very depths of the dark waters, a single spark of brilliant golden light emerged. It was Ra, the first god, the sun itself, the source of all life and the force of creation. From the nothingness, Ra rose slowly and surely, a radiant orb of pure light, shimmering and glowing against the darkness. This was the moment when creation truly began. Ra rose upon a small, sacred mound called Benben, the very first piece of solid land to emerge from the waters. The Benben was not large, but it held immense power, the seed from which the world itself would grow. Ra's light spilled over the dark waters, bathing the deep ocean in warmth and illuminating the emptiness with a golden glow. The god Ra stood tall and glorious, his eyes shining like twin suns. His radiant gaze pierced the darkness, filled with ancient wisdom and boundless power. When Ra opened his mouth, the first sound in the universe escaped, his own name, Ra. The voice was calm and steady, yet full of authority. As the sound echoed across the waters, it stirred none, awakening the depths from their endless stillness. From Ra's breath, the god Shu was born. Shu was the god of air, invisible yet essential, the breath that separated sky from earth and carried the winds across the world. Alongside Shu came Tefnut, the goddess of moisture, born from Ra's warmth and dew. She was the gentle presence that brought rain and dew to the land. Shu and Tefnut moved through the void, weaving their essence through the stillness. Shu lifted the air, carrying breath and wind, while Tefnut brought moisture and mist. Together, they danced, swirling softly, stirring the ocean of none. Their union gave birth to Geb, the god of the earth, strong and solid, fertile and rich. From their bond also came Nut, the goddess of the sky, vast and arching above, a dark canopy dotted with shining stars. At first Geb and Nut were entwined in a close embrace. Their bodies touched so tightly that there was no space between earth and sky. The world could not grow and life could not begin. Seeing this, Ra commanded Shu to intervene. Shu, with a great breath, lifted Nut high above Geb, separating sky from earth and creating the vast space between them. This space became the air, the atmosphere that surrounds the earth and allows life to breathe. Shu held Nut aloft with his breath, stretching the sky wide like a great tent. Geb, freed from Nut's touch, spread across the land, forming mountains, valleys, plains, and rivers. The earth was fertile and alive, ready to sustain life. Ready. Light bathed the world in warmth and vitality. The sun, born from Ra's heart, shone brightly and was set to journey daily across the heavens. Each morning, Ra climbed aboard his golden solar bark, a celestial boat that sailed through the sky from east to west. As Ra sailed across the sky, he chased away the darkness, painting the land with golden light and brilliant colors. This voyage of Ra created the cycle of day and night. When the sun sank below the horizon, Ra's journey continued through the mysterious underworld realm where the spirits of the dead wandered. Here, the stars shone softly, twinkling like distant fires, and Ra's passage through the darkness was the promise of the dawn to come. From Ra's tears shed from both joy and compassion, the first humans were born. These tears fell gently upon the earth, and where they touched, life sprang forth. Humans were not molded from clay or stone, but were created from the warmth of Ra's love. Wherever his tears touched fertile soil, people grew and flourished. Ra watched over these humans, teaching them the ways of the world. He showed them how to tend the soil, how to raise crops, and how to live in harmony with the earth. He taught them to honor the gods and to respect Matha, goddess of truth, justice, and balance. Mat was the principle that held the universe steady, ensuring that the world remained in harmony. Yet, even in this new world, imperfection was inevitable. Some humans forgot the laws of Mat, allowing selfishness, pride, and chaos to enter. Their hearts, the balance of the world, began to shift, threatening the peace that Ra had established to restore order. Ra sent Sekhmet, the fierce lioness goddess of justice and vengeance. Sekhmet's fiery breath scorched the land, purging disorder and punishing those who strayed from the path. Her power was immense, and her wrath unstoppable. However, when Sekhmet's fury became too great and risked destroying the world, Ra softened her spirit. He transformed her into Hathor, goddess of love, music, and joy. Hathor's laughter and gentle songs soothed the earth and its people, bringing healing and peace where fire had burned. The gods continued their eternal dance through the cosmos, each fulfilling their role in the delicate balance of creation. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom and writing, kept the records of time and knowledge. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, watched over the dead, guiding their souls safely through the underworld. Ra's presence was felt everywhere, in the soft breeze that rustled the palm leaves, in the flowing waters of the Nile that nourished the land, in the golden sunlight that warmed every living thing. Ra was the steady heartbeat of the world, eternal and unchanging. His light chased away darkness, promising life, renewal, and hope. As Ra's golden light spread across the newly formed world, the land began to take shape in ever more intricate and wondrous ways. The earth, Geb, stretched his vast body across the fertile soil, creating mountains that pierced the sky and valleys, that cradled rivers and lakes. His breath stirred the grasses and trees, and wherever his hands touched, the land blossomed with life. Nut, the sky goddess, arched above like a protective canopy, her dark blue body dusted with countless stars. Each star was a spark of Ra's light captured in her embracer, constant reminder of the sun's eternal journey and the balance of night and day. The horizon where Geb and Nut met was a sacred line, the boundary between earth and sky. Life and mystery. The cycle of time was born from Ra's daily passage across the heavens. Each day he traveled in his solar bark, bringing light, warmth, and life-giving energy to all creatures. Each night he journeyed through the underworld, the Duat, a shadowy realm of transformation and rebirth. This cycle mirrored the rhythms of life itself: birth, growth, decay, and renewal. In the Duat, Ra faced many challenges. The serpent Apophis, embodiment of chaos and darkness, lurked in the shadows, attempting to swallow the sun and plunge the world back into eternal night. But Ra, with the help of other gods, such as Set, god of storms and protector of the sun, fought tirelessly to defeat Apophis. Their battles were fierce and relentless, symbolizing the eternal struggle between order and chaos. From this cosmic battle, the importance of Matha, principle of order, balance, and truth, became clear. Without Mat, chaos would reign, and the world would fall into disorder. Humans, created from Ra's tears, were taught to live by Mat, to respect the laws that kept the universe in harmony. The gods, though powerful, were deeply intertwined with the lives of humans. They walked the earth, hidden among the creatures, and people, guiding and teaching. Isis, the goddess of magic and healing, moved softly among the reeds by the Nile, tending to the sick and sharing her wisdom. Osiris, the god of the afterlife and resurrection, taught humans about death and rebirth, promising that the soul's journey did not end but continued beyond the veil. Ra's creation was not only physical but spiritual. The breath of Ra carried life into every corner of the world, the wind that stirred the trees, the warmth that nurtured seeds in the soil, the light that illuminated minds and hearts. Through this divine breath, the world was alive, vibrant, and connected. As humanity grew, so too did their understanding of the gods and the cosmos. They built temples and altars, carved statues, and sang hymns in honor of Ra and his divine family. The sun's rising and setting became sacred events, celebrated with ceremonies that renewed the bond between gods and people. Yet, the world was not without its mysteries and shadows. The Duat, the Underworld, was a place of both fear and wonder. It was where souls traveled after death, passing through trials and judgment before reaching the eternal fields of peace. Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of the dead, watched over these souls, guiding them safely through the labyrinth of the afterlife. The heart of each soul was weighed against the feather of Mat in the hall of truth. If the heart was pure and balanced, the soul was granted eternal life among the gods. If not, it was devoured by Ammit, the devourer creature, part lion, crocodile, and hippopotamus, sending the soul's journey. Through these divine laws and rituals, Ra's creation maintained its delicate balance. The sun god was both the giver of life and the enforcer of cosmic order. His light was not only warmth and illumination, but also justice and truth. One day, as Ra sailed his solar bark across the sky, he contemplated the world he had created. He saw the mountains and rivers, the forests and deserts, the animals roaming freely, and the humans tending their fields. He saw the harmony and beauty, but also the occasional shadows of discord and imbalance. Ra knew that creation was not a finished work, but an ongoing process. It required constant care and attention. The gods and humans alike had roles to play in maintaining Mat. It was a sacred duty to nurture the world, to live in respect and harmony with all that was created. From this understanding, Ra bestowed upon humanity the gift of wisdom and law. Thoth, the eye-besetted god of knowledge, was given the task of recording all events, the deeds of gods and men, the cycles of the sun and stars, the passing of seasons. With Thoth's guidance, humans learned to write, to measure time, and to preserve knowledge across generations. The Nile River, the lifeblood of the land, was another great gift from Ra. It flowed steadily from distant mountains, bringing water and fertile soil to the desert lands. The people learned to follow its rhythms, planting their crops when the river flooded and harvesting when its waters receded. The Nile was both a source of life and a symbol of Ra's continual blessing. In the quiet moments between day and night, when the sky glowed with the soft hues of dawn or dusk, the world seemed to hold its breath. It was in these times that the connection between earth and sky, between humans and gods, felt strongest. The colors of the sunrise and sunset were reflections of Ra's journey, a reminder that light always returns and life always renews. Through the long ages, the story of Ra and the creation passed from generation to generation. It was told around fires, carved into stone tablets, sung in sacred hymns, and painted on the walls of temples. Each telling was a way of honoring the sun god and remembering the sacred origins of the world. Ra's light was a promise that even in the darkest times, light would return, that order would prevail over chaos, and that life would continue in an endless dance of creation and renewal. The world that Ra had brought into being was vast and filled with endless wonders. Mountains rose like silent guardians, rivers traced silver paths through the earth, and forests whispered secrets to the sky. The creatures of land, sea, and air moved in harmony with the rhythms set by Ra's journey, each playing a role in the balance of creation. Among all beings, humanity held a unique place. Created from Ra's own tears, humans were both fragile and powerful, shaped by divine breath, yet bound to the earth. They were gifted with minds capable of reason and hearts capable of love and compassion. Ra watched over them with a steady gaze, knowing that they would shape the future of the world. As time passed, the humans grew curious. They looked to the sky and wondered about the stars that adorned Nut's vast body, each a silent sentinel watching over the night. They pondered the cycles of the moon and the rising and setting of the sun. Their minds sought to understand the laws that governed the cosmos. It was Thoth, the god of wisdom, who answered these questions. With his said and calm, thoughtful eyes, Thoth revealed the secrets of writing, mathematics, and astronomy. He taught humans how to record the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, how to measure the passing of days, months, and years. Through Thoth's guidance, the mysteries of time became known, and humans learned to honor the cycles that Ra's journey had created. The priests and scholars studied these laws, recording the sacred calendar that marked the seasons and festivals. The most important of these festivals honored Ra himself, celebrating his daily voyage across the sky and his nightly triumph over the forces of chaos. Yet the peace of the world was never guaranteed. The serpent Apophis lurked in the shadows of the Duat, constantly seeking to disrupt the order Ra had established. Apophis was the embodiment of chaos and darkness, a force that threatened to swallow the sun and plunge the world back into endless night. Each night, as Ra journeyed through the underworld, the gods and spirits prepared to defend him. Set, the god of storms and desert winds, stood as Ra's fierce protector, wielding power and strength to battle upon. The struggle was eternal, a cosmic battle reflecting the fragile balance between order and chaos. From this conflict, the world's dualities, light and dark, order and disorder, life and death, were born. These forces were intertwined, each dependent on the other. Without darkness, light could not be seen. Without chaos, order would have no meaning. In the quiet moments between these struggles, the gods continued their work. Isis, the nurturing goddess of magic and healing, taught humans the secrets of herbs and remedies. Her gentle hands brought comfort and restored health. Osiris, the god of resurrection and the afterlife, revealed the path of the soul beyond death. He promised that death was not an end but a transformation, a step toward eternal life in the fields of Aru. The journey of the soul through the afterlife was a profound mystery. Anubis, guardian of the dead, led souls through the labyrinth of the Duat, guiding them past dangers and judgments. The heart of each soul was weighed against the feather of Mat, the symbol of truth and justice. Only those who lived with purity and balance could enter the eternal fields. The underworld itself was a realm of shadow and light, of trial and redemption. It was not a place of fear alone, but of transformation. Souls who passed its tests were reborn into new life, joining the eternal cycle of existence. Back in the world above, the land flourished under Ra's light. The Nile flowed steadily, its waters bringing life to the desert. The people learned to read the river's signs, the floodwaters that enriched the soil, the dry season that called for harvest. Their lives were intertwined with the rhythms of nature and the divine. Temples rose in honor of the gods, grand structures of stone and gold, where priests offered prayers and sacrifices. The pharaoh, considered the living embodiment of Horus, and son of Ra, ruled as the bridge between gods and humans. His duty was to maintain Mat, to ensure the prosperity and harmony of the land. Stories of Ra's creation were told and retold, not only as myth but as a living truth. The cycle of day and night, of life and death, of order and chaos, was a constant reminder of the delicate balance that held the universe together. Ra's journey was endless, his light unceasing. Each dawn brought new beginnings, each sunset whispered of renewal. The world was alive with his presence, a world born from the waters of Nun and shaped by the breath of the sun god through all ages. Ra remained the eternal source, the golden heart of creation, watching over the world he had formed and the beings he had brought into existence. The story of Ra's creation was not simply one of beginnings. It was a living, breathing saga that stretched across endless ages, with each passing day and night. The world shaped itself more intricately as rivers carved valleys, winds sculpted deserts, and life grew in infinite forms. The sun's light revealed the hidden beauties of the earth jewels in the sand, vibrant flowers blooming in the shade, creatures, great and small, moving in delicate balance. Humans born from Ra's tears spread across the fertile lands, their societies growing richer and more complex. They built villages beside the Nile's banks, harnessing its waters to irrigate fields heavy with wheat and barley. The sacred river was their lifeline, their connection to Ra's divine gift and the source of all sustenance. In these early times, the bond between gods and people was close and palpable. The gods were not distant figures, but living forces that shaped the natural world. The winds carried Shu's breath, cooling the scorching sun. The rains were gifts from Tefnut, bringing the moisture necessary for crops to flourish. Geb's fertile soil welcomed the seed, and Nut's stars guided travelers through the desert nights. The great temples became centers of worship and learning. Here, priests dedicated themselves to preserving the sacred knowledge given by Thoth and honoring Ra. Through elaborate rituals, the daily rising and setting of the sun were marked by ceremonies that acknowledged the sun god's unending journey. The people understood that Ra's passage was more than light, it was the very rhythm of existence. Among the many tales told, one stood out: the story of how Ra had created the first humans, not only from his tears, but also through the powerful act of speech. According to this tale, Ra spoke the names of things into existence, and thus the world took shape. When he named the creatures of the earth, he gave them their forms and destinies. The word itself was a creative force, weaving reality from the void. This power of naming connected humans to the divine, for language was seen as a sacred gift, a way to link the mortal and the eternal. Through words, humans could honor the gods, call upon their protection, and participate in the unfolding creation. But creation was also a process of struggle and change. The harmony of Maat was fragile, constantly threatened by forces of chaos and disorder. The serpent, Apophis, ever lurking in the darkness, was a reminder that balance must be guarded. Every night, as Ra passed through the Duat, the gods gathered to defend him, ensuring that dawn would come again. Set, often seen as a tempestuous god, played a crucial role in these battles. Though sometimes feared for his power, he was a protector of the sun god's journey, using his strength to repel the darkness. His role was complex, both destroyer and guardian, sympathizing the dual nature of chaos as both threat and necessary force for transformation in this eternal cycle. Death was not an end, but a passage. Osiris, once a mortal king who became god of the afterlife, ruled over the realm of the dead with justice and mercy. His story was one of sacrifice and resurrection, a promise that life continues beyond the earthly plane. Humans believed that by living according to Maat, their souls could join Osiris in the eternal fields of peace. The judgment in the hall of truth was a sacred rite. Anubis, with his watchful eyes, weighed the hearts of the dead, balancing them against the feather of Maat. This act was the ultimate measure of a life lived in harmony with the divine order. Those whose hearts were pure entered eternal joy. Those who failed faced oblivion. Ra's presence was felt in every aspect of life. The changing seasons, the flowering of plants, the birth of animals, all were reflections of his light and power. The cycles of nature echoed the sun's own journey, a grand cosmic dance of creation and renewal. Legends spoke of the celestial bark, Ra's sunboat, traveling not only across the sky but through the heavens themselves. It was said that in the farthest reaches of the cosmos, Ra rested upon the sacred Benbon stone, renewing his strength before beginning the journey anew. This cycle of death and rebirth mirrored the world's own rhythms and the eternal flow of life. The harmony established by Ra was maintained not only by gods, but by humans as well. Kings and pharaohs were seen as earthly representatives of the divine order, charged with upholding Maat and ensuring the prosperity of the land. Their rule was sacred, a link between the heavens and earth. Through art, architecture, and storytelling, the people expressed their devotion. Murals depicting the sun's journey, carvings of gods and goddesses, and hymns sung in praise of Ra celebrated the sacred order of the universe. These expressions were acts of reverence and remembrance, keeping the ancient truths alive through the generations. As the world grew, so did its mysteries. The night sky, with its myriad stars, became a map of stories and prophecies. Constellations were seen as the bodies of gods and heroes, their movements guiding fate and destiny. The stars were lights of hope, watching over the earth and reminding all that the divine was ever present. Ra's creation was a tapestry woven with threads of light and shadow, order and chaos, life and death. It was a story without end, a living myth that carried the essence of existence itself. Through every moment of the sun's passage, the eternal dance of the cosmos continued, a dance that bound gods and humans, earth and sky, in an unbreakable bond as the endless cycles of day and night wove on. Ra's light remained the heart of all creation. The world, shaped by his breath and bound by his will, was a testament to balance and harmony. Mountains stood firm, rivers sang their songs, and life continued to thrive beneath the ever-watchful sky, goddess Nut Dot, in the hearts of humans. The story of Ra's creation lived on, a constant reminder of their place within the vast cosmos. They understood that life was a gift to be cherished, a fragile yet enduring flame fueled by the sun god's radiance. Each morning's dawn was a renewal, a promise that light would always return to banish darkness. The gods, too, remained ever present, protecting and nurturing the world. They were not distant legends, but living forces woven into the fabric of existence. Isis's healing hands brought comfort. Osiris's promise of resurrection gave hope beyond death, and Set's fierce protection kept chaos at bay. Together, these gods maintained the sacred order of Mat, ensuring the world's continued balance. Ra's journey across the sky was more than a celestial voyage. It was the heartbeat of the universe. His solar bark, shimmering with golden light, carried not just the sun, but the essence of life, wisdom, and justice. The daily battles fought in the duet against Apophis were reminders that creation was a dynamic, living process, requiring vigilance and courage. Humans, created from divine tears and words, held a sacred responsibility. Their lives were intertwined with the cycles of nature and the will of the gods. Through rituals, offerings, and prayers, they honored Ra and upheld Mat, striving to live in harmony with all that was created. The sacred Nile continued to nourish the land, its waters a symbol of Ra's enduring blessing. Villages thrived along its banks, their people tending fields, raising families, and passing down ancient wisdom. The stars above guided travelers and dreamers, their light a connection to the divine realm. As ages passed, the story of Ra's creation inspired generations. It taught that life was a delicate balance, one that could be sustained only through respect, truth, and the shared effort of all beings. The world was a sacred gift, born from the union of light and darkness, order and chaos, earth and sky. On the final reflection, Ra's creation was not a distant myth, frozen in time, but a living, breathing reality. It was the cycle of dawn and dusk, the rise and fall of the sun, and the eternal promise of renewal. It was the world as it was and ever would be, endless, vibrant, and filled with the light of the sun god. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, the world rested in the warm glow of Ra's legacy, an eternal flame of life, light, and hope. Tale 2: Osiris, Isis, and the cycle of life and death. Long ago, before the lands and rivers settled into the shapes we know today, before the skies arched blue and the sun rose with steady warmth, the world was shaped by gods and filled with mysteries. In those earliest days, the gods walked freely among the earth, their powers weaving together the fabric of existence. Among these gods, none was more beloved or powerful than Osiris, the eldest son of Geb, the earth god, and Nut, the sky goddess. Osiris was not only a ruler, but the very embodiment of life itself. His presence brought order where there had been chaos, and his touch stirred the fertile soil to bring forth life. From the smallest seed to the mightiest tree, Osiris's blessing made all grow strong. Osiris's kingdom was vast, stretching across the Nile's fertile banks, where farmers tilled the soil and children laughed in the sunshine. The people adored him, for he was a king of great compassion and wisdom. His rule was just, and his heart was kind. Under his guidance, the world knew peace and prosperity, and the cycles of nature unfolded smoothly. Beside Osiris stood his sister and beloved wife, Isis, a goddess whose powers of magic and healing were unparalleled. She was gentle yet fiercely protective, the guardian of life and love. Wherever she went, flowers bloomed and sick creatures found comfort. Isis was the mother of all living things, and her magic kept the world alive and vibrant. Her wisdom was sought by gods and mortals alike, for she knew the secrets of the heart and the mysteries of the unseen. Together, Osiris and Isis ruled the world in harmony, their love binding the earth and sky in perfect balance. They were the embodiment of Matter's sacred order that kept the universe in harmony. Their union brought stability, growth, and the flourishing of all living beings. But the harmony of the gods was fragile, for among them was Set, Osiris's brother, the god of storms, chaos, and destruction. Set's nature was wild and tempestuous, unlike the calm strength of Osiris. His heart burned with envy and anger. He longed to claim the throne for himself, to overthrow the gentle ruler who brought peace and prosperity. Set's jealousy grew until it became a dark flame that consumed his thoughts. He plotted against Osiris with cunning and cruelty, seeking to shatter the balance that held the world together. One day, Set crafted a magnificent chest, crafted with exquisite skill and adorned with gold and jewels. It was a masterpiece, a trap designed to ensnare Osiris. During a grand feast where all the gods gathered, Set presented the chest and declared a challenge. Whoever could fit perfectly inside the chest would claim it as a prize. One by one, the gods tried, but none fit quite right. When Osiris, trusting and calm, lay down within, Set slammed the lid shut and sealed it tightly with lead. Without hesitation, Set cast the chest into the Nile, letting the currents sweep it away into the unknown. The earth cried out in sorrow. The Nile's waters no longer rose to nourish the land. The crops began to fail, and the animals grew restless. The people mourned their king, and a heavy darkness settled over the world. Without Osiris's life-giving spirit, the land grew barren and cold. Isis was devastated. Her heart ached with grief, but she would not give in to despair. With her sister Nephthys and the jackal-headed guardian Anubis by her side, Isis set out on a desperate journey to find Osiris and restore the balance. Guided by love and her profound magic, Isis searched along the banks of the Nile, calling to the spirits of the river and the earth. Her voice was soft but unwavering, a song of hope that echoed through the reeds and across the waters. She followed the river's twists and turns, determined to rescue her husband from the darkness. After many days and nights, Isis discovered the chest hidden among the reeds. She pulled it gently from the water, cradling it as though it were alive. With great care, she hid Osiris's body in a secret place to protect it from Set's wrath. But Set's fury was relentless. He found the resting place and, in an act of brutal rage, tore Osiris's body into 14 pieces. He scattered these pieces across the land, hoping to destroy Osiris's essence forever. Yet Isis's love and magic knew no limits. She began the sacred task of gathering every piece, traveling across deserts and mountains, valleys and forests. With each fragment she found, Isis performed rituals and spells, weaving the broken body together with unyielding devotion. When all 14 pieces were reunited, Isis used her magic to breathe life back into Osiris. Though he could no longer remain king of the living world, Osiris was reborn as the ruler of the afterlife, the god who would guide souls on their journey beyond death. This was the beginning of the great cycle of life and death, a cycle that all living beings would come to know. Death was not the end, but a transition, a passage from one form of existence to another. Isis remained a symbol of healing and renewal, her magic a balm for those who mourned, and a promise that life would always find a way. Their son, Horus, would grow to avenge his father and restore balance, continuing the eternal struggle between order and chaos. The story of Osiris and Isis became a sacred tale told through generations, a reflection of the world's rhythms: rising and setting sun, the flooding and receding Nile, the birth and passing of life itself, as the pieces of Osiris's broken body were scattered across the lands. Isis's journey became one of both sorrow and fierce determination. Each fragment lay hidden in distant, often dangerous places, beneath the desert's scorching sun, in shadowed caves, among the roots of ancient trees, and deep in the wilderness where few dared to tread. The goddess's quest was not just a physical journey, but a spiritual pilgrimage, demanding patience, courage, and boundless love. Isis traveled tirelessly, her heart never wavering, her magic a steady light against the encroaching darkness. She whispered prayers to the earth, invoking the gods and spirits for guidance, calling upon the winds to carry her voice far and wide. Along the riverbanks, she sang songs that soothed restless waters, and among the reeds she traced sacred symbols to reveal hidden places. Her sister Nephthys accompanied her, offering strength and companionship. Together, they faced many trial storms that threatened to sweep them away: wild beasts guarding sacred grounds and treacherous terrain that tested their resolve. Yet, nothing could deter Isis from her purpose. With every piece she found, her magic grew stronger, weaving a tapestry of restoration and hope. At last, Isis gathered all 14 pieces of Osiris's body. With great care, she laid them upon a sacred altar and began the rites of restoration. Chanting ancient words taught by the gods themselves, she called upon the power of the sun, the earth, and the heavens. Her hands glowed with a gentle light as she traced the contours of Osiris's form, knitting flesh and bone, spirit and breath. It was in this sacred moment that Osiris's transformation began. Though his body was made whole again, he was no longer the king of the living world. Isis's magic opened a gateway, and Osiris passed beyond the mortal realm into the Duatha, mysterious kingdom of the afterlife. There he would become the judge of souls, the Lord who weighed the hearts of the departed and guided them to their eternal resting place. This transition marked a profound truth that life and death were part of a greater cycle, a sacred rhythm that bound the universe. Death was not a final end, but a passage into a new form of existence, where the soul could find peace or renewal. While Osiris ruled the afterlife, Isis's role as protector and healer grew ever more vital. She became the goddess of magic and resurrection, her wisdom and power a beacon for all who sought to understand the mysteries of life and death. Through her, the people learned that love and devotion could transcend even the greatest losses. Isis's love did not end with Osiris's transformation. She bore a son, Horus, destined to carry forward the legacy of his father and restore balance to the world. From the moment of his birth, Horus was protected by his mother's magic, raised with stories of courage, justice, and the sacred duty to fight against chaos. Set, however, was far from defeated. His rage at losing the throne burned fiercely, and he continued to sow discord, challenging Horus again and again. Their battles were fierce clashes of power and will that echoed across the heavens and the earth. Each struggle was a test of strength and wisdom, a reflection of the eternal tension between order and chaos. Despite the dangers, Horus persevered. With Isis's guidance and the blessings of the other gods, he grew into a mighty warrior and wise leader. In time, Horus defeated Set, reclaiming the throne and restoring Matha's sacred order. Once more, his victory ensured that the cycle of life, death, and rebirth continued in harmony. The people of Egypt held these stories close, for they mirrored the cycles of their own lives. The rising and setting of the sun, the flooding and receding of the Nile, the planting and harvesting of crops all were reflections of the eternal dance begun by Osiris, Isis, and Horus. In temples and homes, prayers and rituals honored these gods, seeking their blessings for life, death, and beyond. Offerings were made to Osiris to aid the souls of the departed, while Isis's magic was called upon to heal the sick and protect the vulnerable. The tale of Osiris and Isis became more than myth. It was a way to understand the mysteries of existence, to find comfort in the face of loss, and to celebrate the enduring power of love and renewal. Through this sacred story, the ancient Egyptians found hope that even when darkness falls, light will return, that death is but a doorway to new life, and that the balance of the world depends on the eternal cycle of endings and beginnings. As the cycle of life and death took its place at the heart of the world, the influence of Osiris and Isis extended far beyond their own divine story. The ancient Egyptians saw in their tale a reflection of the world's rhythms and their own place within eternal truth that shaped their understanding of life, death, and what lay beyond. The story of Osiris's death and resurrection was not simply about gods fighting for power. It was a sacred metaphor for the earth itself. The flooding of the Nile each year, which brought life-giving water and fertile soil, was seen as Osiris's own rebirth, rising anew to bless the land. When the waters receded and the earth lay dry, it was as if Osiris had passed into the realm of death. Resting and preparing to return once more, farmers planted their seeds with prayers to Osiris and Isis, hoping that the cycle of growth and renewal would continue. They understood that life depended on balance between light and darkness, growth and decay. order and chaos. This balance was Maat, the harmony that Osiris's story embodied. Isis, too, became a symbol of devotion and the power of love to overcome even death. Mothers looked to her as a protector of children and families, a goddess who could heal wounds both physical and spiritual. Her magic was believed to hold the power to mend broken hearts and restore hope. Her role as a healer extended to the dead as well. Through the rituals of embalming and burial, the ancient Egyptians sought to help the soul's journey to the afterlife, where Osiris awaited as judge. The Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and prayers, was created to guide the departed through the dangers of the Duat, ensuring they could pass safely and find eternal rest. The judgment of Osiris was a solemn moment. The heart of the deceased was weighed against the feather of Matha, symbol of truth and justice. If the heart was light, free from deceit and sin, the soul was granted passage to the eternal fields of peace. But if the heart was heavy with wrongdoing, it was devoured by Amit, the fearsome demon, and the soul's journey ended in oblivion. This belief gave profound meaning to the choices of life, urging the living to live with honesty, kindness, and respect for the divine order. The gods were not distant beings, but active forces guiding human destiny, their stories woven into every moment of existence. Horus's rise to power also carried great significance. As the avenger of his father and the restorer of order, Horus embodied the hope of renewal and justice. His battles with Set were more than mere conflict. They were symbolic of the struggle within every heart to overcome fear, hatred, and chaos with courage and truth. Isis, as a mother, nurtured Horus with all the wisdom she possessed. She taught him the sacred laws of the gods, the importance of Maat, and the power of compassion. Horus's victory over Set was not just a triumph of might, but of the enduring values that Osiris and Isis had nurtured. This sacred family, the divine triad of Osiris, Isis, and Horus became central figures in Egyptian religion and culture. Their story was told in countless temples, carved into statues and painted on walls, recited in prayers and ceremonies. The cycle they represented was eternal, death leading to rebirth, chaos giving way to order, darkness turning into light. It was a story of transformation and hope, one that assured the people that life's greatest mysteries were not to be feared, but understood and embraced. Through Osiris and Isis, the ancient Egyptians found a way to face the unknown with courage, to honor their ancestors, and to live in harmony with the world's sacred rhythms. Their legacy endured, a timeless reminder that through love, sacrifice, and faith, life would always continue, with Horus crowned as the rightful ruler. Peace and order were restored to the land once more. The kingdom flourished under his guidance, and the people celebrated the return of harmony. Yet, the story of Osiris, Isis, and Horus remained not just a tale of gods, but a living truth that continued to shape the hearts and minds of all who listened. The cycle of life and death, as taught by Osiris, became a cornerstone of ancient Egyptian belief, sacred promise that death was not an end, but a transformation. Osiris's role as Lord of the Underworld assured souls that beyond the veil of mortality, there was judgment, renewal, and eternal life for those who lived with truth and justice. Isis's magic, love, and determination remained a symbol of healing and protection. Her devotion to Osiris showed that even in the face of great loss and darkness, love could restore and renew. She became the eternal mother, the goddess who watched over the living and the dead alike, a beacon of hope in times of despair. The sacred balance of Ma'at, upheld by the gods and embraced by humanity, was the guiding principle of the world, a reminder that order, harmony, and truth were the foundations upon which life was built. The struggles between Osiris and Set, Horus and Set, symbolized the ongoing tension between chaos and order, a tension that required vigilance and courage from gods and mortals alike. In the rituals of daily life, the prayers of the faithful, and the sacred ceremonies of burial and remembrance, the story of Osiris and Isis was honored. It was a story passed from parent to child, from generation to generation, a timeless teaching that linked the past, present, and future. As the sun rose and set over the land, as the Nile flooded and receded with unfailing rhythm, the world itself echoed the eternal dance of death and rebirth. Osiris's light shone in the hearts of those who believed. Isis's magic whispered in the winds of the desert, and Horus's strength guarded the horizon. Through their story, the ancient Egyptians understood their place in the cosmos, are part of a grand and sacred cycle that embraced all life. They found comfort in knowing that death was but a doorway, that love and truth were powerful beyond measure, and that the balance of the universe depended on the harmony they nurtured within themselves and the world around them. And so, the tale of Osiris, Isis, and the cycle of life and death endured, a sacred legacy of hope, transformation, and eternal love. Tale 3. Horus and the Eye of Rain, the time when gods walked the earth and the world was young. There was a mighty warrior and protector named Horus. He was the son of Osiris and Isis, born with a divine purpose to bring order to the lands and to fight against the forces of chaos that sought to undo the harmony his parents had restored. Horus was no ordinary god. He was a symbol of kingship, strength, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Horus was known by many names, but one of his most powerful symbols was the Eye of Ra. This eye was not merely a tool of vision, but a divine force, an extension of Ra, the sun god's own power and wrath. The eye was both protector and punisher, a fiery guardian that could heal the world or destroy it if called upon. The story of Horus and the Eye of Ra is a tale of bravery, vengeance, and divine justice, a story that begins with conflict and ends with the restoration of balance. After the death of Osiris, Horus grew under the careful watch of Isis, learning the ways of the gods and preparing for the great battle that would decide the fate of the world. Set, the god of chaos and storms, was not yet defeated. His envy and hatred burned brighter than ever, and he sought to seize power once more, to overthrow Horus and claim the throne for himself. Their battles were fierce and legendary. They clashed in the skies and on the earth, their powers shaking. The heavens, Horus, though younger, was cunning and fierce, and with the blessings of Isis and the other gods, he fought to reclaim the throne that was his by birthright. During these battles, the Eye of Ra played a crucial role. This powerful eye was sent by Ra to aid Horus, to watch over him and unleash fiery judgment upon his enemies. But the eye was also a complex force. It could be fierce and wrathful, but it could also be a source of healing and protection, At one point in the conflict, the Eye of Ra was sent on a mission to punish the lands that had fallen into chaos and disobedience. The Eye took the form of a fierce lioness, burning and relentless, striking fear into the hearts of those who opposed the god's order. Yet, despite its fury, the Eye was also capable of great mercy, and it was through this balance of destruction and healing that it maintained the world's harmony. But as with all powerful forces, the Eye of Ra was not without its dangers. At one moment it grew wild and uncontrollable, threatening even the gods themselves. Isis, wise and loving, used her magic to calm the Eye, restoring it to balance and returning it safely to Ra. This story of the Eye of Ra's power and its connection to Horus became a sacred symbol for the people. It reminded them that true strength came not only from force, but from wisdom, balance, and the protection of what is just and right. The tale of Horus and the Eye of Ra is a story of a god's journey to reclaim his rightful place. The power of divine wrath and mercy, and the eternal fight to uphold the sacred order of the universe. As Horus grew in strength and wisdom, so too did his connection with the Eye of Ra deepen. The Eye was not just a weapon or a guardian, it was a reflection of the sun's blazing power, a living force embodying both light and fury. With it, Horus was not only a warrior, but also a divine force of balance, able to bring justice and healing to a world still healing from the wounds left by Set's chaos. But Horus's journey was not easy. The battles with Set were many and fierce, stretching across the lands and skies. Each clash was a test of courage and endurance. Though Horus was blessed by the gods, Set's power was immense and relentless. The god of storms and disorder unleashed chaos with every strike, twisting storms and darkness against his brother's cause. In the midst of these struggles, the Eye of Ra took on many forms. Sometimes it was the fierce lioness Sekhmet roaring across the battlefield with flames licking at her mane. Other times it was the swift and cunning falcon soaring high above to scout and protect. The Eye was a versatile force, responding to Horus's call and adapting to the needs of the moment. The people of Egypt revered the Eye of Ra not just as a symbol of power, but as a guardian spirit. They saw in it the fierce protection of the sun and the promise that justice would always prevail. Temples were dedicated to the Eye, where priests invoked its blessing for protection and healing. Yet, the power of the Eye was a double-edged sword. In one famous story, the Eye was sent to punish humanity for their disobedience. The goddess Sekhmet, embodying the Eye's wrath, was unleashed to destroy those who had defied the gods. Her fury was so intense that she nearly brought destruction upon the world. Seeing this, Ra feared the devastation that might befall creation. To stop Sekhmet's rampage, the gods devised a clever plan. They dyed the Nile's waters red with beer to resemble blood, tricking Sekhmet into drinking it. Intoxicated and pacified, Sekhmet's rage subsided, and she was transformed from a destroyer into a healer, embodying balance once again. This story taught the ancient Egyptians about the delicate balance of power, the need for fury to be tempered by mercy and justice to be guided by wisdom. Meanwhile, Horus continued his quest to reclaim the throne and restore order. He was not alone. His mother Isis's magic and wisdom were ever by his side, guiding him through the perils of battle and the complexities of divine politics. The gods themselves watched closely, knowing that the outcome of Horus and Set's struggle would determine the fate of all creation. In a final, decisive battle, Horus faced Set on the fields of the gods. Their combat was fierce and unyielding, shaking the heavens and earth. With the eye of Ra blazing brightly, Horus struck with power and precision, overcoming Set's chaotic fury. In this moment, Horus not only won the throne, but also affirmed the triumph of order and balance over chaos and destruction. The Eye of Ra returned to its place with Ra, a symbol of divine authority and protection. But its bond with Horus remained eternal, a reminder that power must always be balanced with justice, and that the protection of the world requires both strength and compassion. With the victory over Set secured, Horus's reign as king of Egypt was established, but his role as protector and guardian was far from over. The Eye of Ra, a powerful symbol of divine authority, remained a vital force, an extension of Ra's will that both watched over the land and embodied the fierce justice necessary to keep chaos at bay. Horus, now firmly seated upon the throne, understood that rulership was not just about power, but about responsibility. He became a wise and just leader, embodying Matha, sacred balance of truth, justice, and cosmic order that his family had long fought to preserve. The Eye of Ra became a symbol deeply intertwined with Horus's kingship. It was said that every pharaoh, as Horus's earthly embodiment, carried the Eye's protection, and it was often depicted on shields and amulets to ward off evil and bring strength. The Eye's power was a reminder that rulers must govern with both strength and mercy. Though peace reigned, the stories of the Eye's wrathful power were never forgotten. The people told tales of how the Eye could become Sekhmet, the lioness, goddess whose fiery breath could consume armies and punish the wicked. But they also remembered how Sekhmet's fury was tempered by the god's wisdom, turning destruction into healing. This dual nature, the ability to destroy and to restore, was at the heart of the Eye of Ra's power. It was a divine force that demanded respect and understanding, a balance between might and mercy. In one story, passed down through generations, the Eye of Ra was sent on a journey to reclaim the rebellious lands that had fallen into disarray. As Sekhmet, the fierce lioness goddess, she roared across the deserts and cities, bringing the fire of the sun's justice to those who had strayed from Mat. But as the Eye's fury grew, the destruction became too great, threatening the very fabric of creation. It was Isis, with her profound magic and compassion, who intervened once more. Using her wisdom, she calmed the Eye's wrath, transforming Sekhmet into Hathor, the goddess of love, joy, and healing. This transformation showed the people that even the most powerful forces of destruction could be softened by love and understanding, that every harsh judgment carried the seed of mercy. Horus's relationship with the Eye of Ra remained sacred and eternal. It was a bond that illustrated the complexity of power, the need for strength to protect, but also the need for wisdom to govern justly. The Eye also symbolized vision and insight. Horus, often depicted as a falcon, had keen sight, able to see what others could not. His eye represented clarity and vigilance, watching over Egypt and its people. The story of Horus and the Eye of Ra thus became more than just myth. It was a lesson about leadership, balance, and the eternal fight between order and chaos. It spoke to the very essence of what it meant to protect and nurture life. Through this tale, the ancient Egyptians understood that power must be wielded with care, that justice must be tempered with compassion, and that the divine forces guiding the world were always striving to maintain harmony. Though the battles would set were over, and Horus had secured his place as king, the story of Horus and the Eye of Ra continued to live on in the hearts and minds of the people. The eye remained a powerful symbol, reminder of the divine forces that govern the universe and the delicate balance between protection and destruction. Horus's reign marked a time of peace and prosperity. His rule was guided by the principles of Mat, truth, justice, and harmony, and his connection to the Eye of Ra reinforced his authority and responsibility. The eye was not just a weapon of war, it was a guardian of order, watching vigilantly over the land and its people. The ancient Egyptians believed that the Eye of Ra was always present, whether in the blazing sun above or in the protective amulets worn by their kings and queens. It was a source of strength and clarity, empowering rulers to see beyond the surface, to understand the truth, and to protect their people from harm. The story also spoke of transformation, how powerful forces like the eye's wrath could be softened by love and wisdom. The shift from Sekhmet's fiery destruction to Hathor's healing grace taught that balance was essential. Justice without mercy could lead to ruin, just as unchecked chaos threatened the cosmos. Horus himself embodied this balance. As a warrior, he was fierce and unyielding, but as a king and protector, he was compassionate and wise. His eye, the symbol of divine sight, reminded all who followed him that true power came from vigilance, insight, and a commitment to the well-being of all. In temples across Egypt, the Eye of Ra was honored with reverence. Priests invoked its protection over the pharaohs, the land, and the people. The eye appeared on amulets and statues, a constant guardian against evil and disorder. As time passed, the story of Horus and the Eye of Ra became a cornerstone of Egyptian culture. It was told in whispers by mothers to their children, recited by priests in grand halls, and remembered in the hearts of those who sought to live in harmony with the world's eternal rhythms. The tale teaches us that the forces of light and darkness, strength and mercy, order and chaos, are forever intertwined. The Eye of Ra, fierce and protective, fiery yet healing, watches over us, or reminding us that with wisdom and courage, balance can be maintained and peace can prevail. And so, the legend of Horus and the Eye of Ra endures, a timeless story of power, vision, and the sacred duty to protect and nurture the world. Tale 4. The Weighing of the Heart. Long ago, when the world was young and the land of Egypt stretched beneath the blazing sun, there was a belief that the soul of every person was more than just their body. It was a spark of the divine, a thread of eternity woven into the fabric of life itself. The ancient Egyptians believed that when a person passed from this world, their soul would journey to the realm of the afterlife, place of judgment, transformation, and eternal peace. At the heart of this sacred journey was a moment of great importance and solemnity. The weighing of the heart. This was not a moment of fear, but one of truth and balance. The heart, the seat of the soul, and the essence of one's character, was weighed against the feather of Mather, goddess who embodied truth, justice, and cosmic order. The feather was light and delicate, symbolizing purity and righteousness. The god Anubis, guardian of the dead and protector of souls, guided the departed to the hall of two truths. There, with his jackal-headed form, he carefully placed the heart upon one side of a great golden scale. On the other side rested the feather of Mont. If the heart was found to be light-free of deceit, cruelty, and sin, the soul was deemed worthy. It would be allowed to pass into the beautiful fields of Aru, a paradise of lush fields, abundant crops, and endless peace, where the soul could live forever in harmony. But if the heart was heavy burdened with lies, wrongs, and selfish deeds, it was a sign that the soul had strayed from the path of Mat. The heart would then be consumed by Amit, a fearsome creature with the head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. This devourer of souls was known as the Eater of the Dead, and its hunger meant that the soul would be lost forever, ending its journey without rest or rebirth. The weighing of the heart was more than a test. It was a reflection of the values that governed life itself. It reminded the living to live honestly, with kindness and respect for the gods, their neighbors, and the natural order. Osiris, the lord of the underworld, presided over this sacred judgment, with his green skin symbolizing rebirth, his crown of feathers, and his calm, watchful eyes. Osiris ensured that justice was done with fairness and mercy. Before the judgment, the soul was often accompanied by Mat herself, the embodiment of truth. She was the goddess who had taught humanity the way of harmony and balance. Her presence was a reminder that the universe itself depended on balance, that every action had consequences, and that justice was the foundation of peace. The ancient Egyptians prepared for this journey with great care. Through rituals, prayers, and the reading of sacred texts, known as the Book of the Dead, they sought to guide their souls safely through the dangers of the afterlife. These texts contain spells, prayers, and instructions to help the soul pass the tests, avoid traps, and reach the fields of Aru. The weighing of the heart was a moment when the truth of a person's life was laid bare. It was a sacred balance between the soul's deeds and the cosmic order that upheld all life. And so, as the sun set over the Nile and the stars began to twinkle in the desert sky, the ancient Egyptians looked toward the horizon with hope, knowing that the soul's journey was both a test and a promise of peace for those who lived with truth, and a reminder of the power of justice that ruled the universe. As the soul's journey began beyond the veil of the living world, it traveled through a mysterious landscape filled with wonders and challenges. The ancient Egyptians imagined the path to the afterlife as a journey through many gates and halls, each guarded by powerful beings who tested the soul's worthiness. The soul was often accompanied by prayers and spells spoken by priests and loved ones, guiding it safely past dangers and towards the Hall of Two Truths, where the sacred judgment awaited. This hall was magnificent, a grand place of shimmering light and deep shadows, where the great scale stood at the center, ready to measure the heart's weight. Anubis, with his watchful jackal head and steady hands, was both guardian and guide. His role was to ensure that the weighing was conducted fairly, without deception or bias. Beside him stood Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, who carefully recorded the outcome of the judgment with his eye-beaded quill. When the heart was placed on the scale, the moment grew still and silent. The feather of Mat, delicate and pure, balanced on the other side. Slowly the scales tipped, revealing the true measure of the soul's life. If the heart was light, it meant the soul had lived in harmony with Mat's laws. It had been honest, kind, and just. It had honored the gods, respected the natural order, and treated others with fairness. For these souls, the gates to the fields of Aru swung open wide. The fields of Aru were a paradise of golden wheat fields, flowing rivers, and peaceful gardens. Here, the soul could rest forever, surrounded by beauty and abundance. It was a place where the soul could live as it had wished, free from pain and sorrow, in eternal peace. But if the heart was heavy, burdened by selfishness, cruelty, or dishonesty, the scales tipped the other way. The soul's fate was sealed, for Amit the devourer would wait patiently. This terrible creature, part crocodile, part lion, and part hippopotamus, ready to consume the heart, destroying the soul's chance at eternal life. The fear of Amit was not just a threat, but a powerful symbol. It reminded the living that every action, every choice, carried weight. The heart was not just a physical organ, but the true measure of a person's character and life. Before the weighing, the soul often recited the negative confession, a declaration of innocence. Before the gods, the soul would proclaim that it had not committed acts of deceit, violence, theft, or injustice. It was a sacred oath, a truth spoken aloud to affirm the purity of one's heart. This confession was vital, for it showed the soul's awareness of Mat's laws and its sincere desire to live rightly. It was not merely a test of actions, but a reflection of intention and conscience. The story of the weighing of the heart thus became a profound teaching about life and death. It was a call to live with integrity, kindness, and respect for the world's delicate balance. Through these beliefs, the ancient Egyptians found comfort and guidance. They knew that death was not the end, but a passage to another realm, where the soul's true nature would be revealed and judged. And so, the cycle of life and death, justice and mercy, was woven into the very fabric of their culture and eternal. Dance, guided by the gods, balanced on the scales of truth. The journey to the Hall of Two Truths was not without its challenges. Before the soul could face the weighing, it had to navigate the dangerous paths of the Duata Egyptian underworld. This was a realm filled with mysterious spirits, strange creatures, and powerful gods who guarded the secrets of life, death, and rebirth. The Duat was a place where the boundaries between worlds blurred, a dark and winding labyrinth, illuminated by the stars and the light of the sun god Ra as he made his nightly passage through the underworld. Each night Ra traveled through the Duat in his solar bark, battling the forces of chaos to ensure the sun would rise again. The souls of the dead traveled alongside him, seeking safe passage and the blessing of the gods. To assist them, the living had inscribed spells and prayers on tomb walls and papyrus scrolls, guides that could help the soul overcome obstacles, avoid dangers, and reach the Hall of Two Truths. One of the most important parts of this journey was meeting the gatekeepers, beings charged with testing the soul's knowledge of Mat and their ability to answer questions about truth and justice. These gatekeepers demanded honesty and purity, for only those who could prove their worth could proceed in the Hall of Two Truths. Osiris sat on his throne, a majestic figure clothed in white linen and adorned with the Atef crown. His green skin symbolized regeneration and eternal life, and his serene gaze conveyed wisdom and justice. Before him stood the scales, an immense symbol of cosmic balance. Anubis carefully placed the heart of the deceased on one side of the scale. The heart was believed to be the center of thought, emotion, and morality, the very essence of the individual's soul. On the other side of the scale rested the feather of Mat, light, pure and flawless. The goddess Mat herself was often depicted nearby, sometimes as a woman with an ostrich feather atop her head, representing truth and balance. As the scale tipped, the fate of the soul was determined. If the heart was lighter than the feather, it meant the soul had lived in harmony with Mat's laws. This soul was worthy of entering the afterlife, a place of eternal peace, beauty, and fulfillment. But if the heart was heavier, weighed down by guilt and sin, the soul's fate was dire. Amit, the fearsome eater of hearts, awaited. This monstrous creature was part lion, part hippopotamus, and part crocodile, three of the most dangerous animals. Known to the Egyptians, Amit's role was to consume the hearts of the unworthy, preventing them from continuing their journey. The destruction of the heart meant the soul would cease to exist, lost to oblivion without hope of resurrection or peace. This fate was more terrifying than any punishment, for it meant the end of existence, no afterlife, no reunion with ancestors, no eternal rest. The soul would be forgotten, swallowed by darkness. This understanding inspired the living to live moral and just lives. The promise of eternal life was not given lightly. It required a heart free from sin and full of truth. The Book of the Dead contained many spells and prayers intended to protect the soul during this critical moment. These texts were often buried with the deceased, inscribed on papyrus or carved into tomb walls. They included declarations of innocence, pleas for protection, and instructions for navigating the underworld. One famous passage was the negative confession, in which the soul would declare to Osiris and the gods that it had not committed specific sins such as lying, stealing, or causing harm. This confession was a profound statement of the soul's purity and readiness to face judgment. The story of the weighing of the heart is not just about death, but about the importance of living with integrity. It teaches that truth and justice are the foundation of peace, and that every action has consequences beyond this life. The gods watched over this process with great care. Osiris, the just ruler of the dead, ensured fairness. Anubis, the protector of souls, guided the journey. Thoth, the wise scribe, recorded the outcome with impartiality. Together, they upheld the sacred balance of the universe, where every heart's weight mattered, and every soul's truth was revealed. With the judgment complete and the heart weighed against the feather of Mat, the fate of the soul was sealed. For those whose hearts balanced lightly against the feather, the journey did not end, it transformed. They were welcomed into the fields of Aru, the eternal paradise where the soul could live in harmony and joy forevermore. The fields of Aru were said to be lush and green, a land of plenty where rivers flowed gently and crops grew in abundance. The soul would find peace, surrounded by beauty and the company of loved ones who had passed before. It was a place where the hardships of mortal life were forgotten, replaced by endless contentment and renewal. But even in this paradise, the soul was not idle. The ancient Egyptians believed in an eternal cycle of life, death and rebirth, mirroring the daily journey of the sun god Ra, the soul continued to learn, grow, and evolve, becoming part of the eternal rhythm of the cosmos. For those whose hearts were found wanting, the consequences were grave. Amit, the devourer, would consume the heavy heart, and the soul would be denied an afterlife. This was a fate feared above all others, the end of existence, a final darkness without hope of resurrection. This fear was a powerful motivator, reminding all to live lives of truth and justice. The weighing of the heart was a symbol of the eternal law that governed all beings, that one's actions and intentions shaped not only the present life, but the fate beyond. The tale of the weighing of the heart was passed down through generations, becoming a central part of Egyptian spirituality and culture. It taught lessons about responsibility, integrity, and the importance of harmony with the universe. In temples and tombs, the story was depicted in art and hieroglyphs, a constant reminder to the living of the sacred path they must walk. Priests recited the spells and prayers of the Book of the Dead, guiding souls and comforting the living with the knowledge that truth and justice would prevail. Osiris, the eternal judge, remained a symbol of hope and renewal. His reign over the underworld assured that all souls were treated with fairness, that the divine balance was maintained, and that those who lived rightly would find peace beyond the veil of death. Thus, the weighing of the heart was more than a judgment. It was a testament to the power of the soul, the necessity of truth, and the promise of eternal life for those who walk in balance with Ma'at. And so, through the stories whispered under the desert stars, the ancient Egyptians found comfort and meaning, knowing that when their own time came, their hearts would be weighed, their truth revealed, and their fate decided by the eternal scales of justice. Tale 5. The tale of the sun's journey through the underworld from the dawn of time. The sun has been a source of life, warmth, and unending wonder. For the ancient Egyptians, the sun was no ordinary light in the sky. It was the mighty god Ra, the supreme deity who brought creation into being. Each day, Ra rose above the horizon, painting the world with golden hues and waking the land from the cool embrace of night. His brilliant light touched the fields of grain, the flowing Nile, and the bustling villages, ensuring that life could flourish. But this daily rise of the sun was more than a natural event. It was a sacred journey, a cosmic voyage that spoke of eternal cycles and divine battles. Every evening, as the sun disappeared beneath the western horizon, Ra did not simply vanish. Instead, he began a mysterious and perilous journey into the realm of shadows and silenced the Duat, the underworld. The Duat was a vast, enigmatic world beneath the earth, unlike any place on the mortal plane. It was a realm where time seemed to bend and flow differently, filled with shadowed rivers, endless deserts, towering cliffs, and ancient gates that guarded secrets known only to the gods. Here, the sun god's journey was a nightly ritual of transformation, danger, and renewal. As the daylight faded, the skies deepened from fiery orange to deep indigo, and the stars began to twinkle faintly. The people of Egypt would look westward, toward the setting sun, knowing that Ra's Bakht, the divine solar boat, was preparing for its descent into the hidden world below. This bark was no ordinary vessel. It was crafted by the gods themselves. Glowing with radiant light, and adorned with powerful symbols of protection and magic. Carved from sacred woods and gilded with gold, it was both a throne and a fortress, carrying Ra safely through the darkness that awaited. On board, Ra was not alone. He was accompanied by an assembly of gods and spirits, each with a crucial role to play. Mat, the goddess of truth, balance, and cosmic order, accompanied him to maintain harmony amidst the chaos. Thoth, the wise, eye-besetted god of knowledge and magic, was there to record the events and provide powerful spells. Other divine beings stood guard, ready to defend the sun god against the terrors lurking in the shadows. As the bark sailed beneath the horizon, the world of the living faded away, replaced by the eerie and otherworldly landscapes of the Duat. Here, darkness reigned, but it was not merely absence of light, was a living force filled with mysterious powers and dangers. Ra's journey was divided into 12 hours, each one a stage in his passage through the underworld. The ancient Egyptians imagined the night as a long voyage through this realm, with each hour presenting new landscapes and challenges. In the earliest hours, Ra passed through calm and peaceful waters where the spirits of the dead awaited their own destinies. These souls had been judged and were traveling to their final resting places, guided by the gods. The atmosphere here was solemn but not fearful, as the light of Ra's bark provided comfort and hope. But as the night deepened, the journey grew more treacherous. Shadows thickened, and the threats of the Duat revealed themselves. The greatest danger was the serpent, a Papulso called Apophista, embodiment of chaos, darkness, and destruction. This monstrous serpent coiled in the deepest depths of the underworld, waiting to strike at the heart of Ra's power. Apep was enormous, with scales that shimmered like black obsidian and eyes that burned with malevolence. His very presence was a threat to all creation, a force that sought to swallow the sun and plunge the world into eternal night. Each night, the battle between Ra and Apep was fought in the depths of the Duata cosmic struggle between order and chaos, light and darkness. Ra wielded the power of the sun itself, blazing rays of light that could burn through shadow and dissolve evil. His divine companions fought alongside him, using magic and strength to protect the bark and keep the serpent at bay. These battles were fierce and relentless, echoing through the silent underworld with thunderous roars and bursts of radiant light. Yet the journey was more than a fight for survival. It was a ritual of renewal and rebirth. Each hour that Ra passed, he was transformed, shedding the darkness of the night and preparing to rise anew. The Duat was not just a place of danger, was a sacred realm where the sun god regained his strength, readying to return to the sky and begin the cycle again. The ancient Egyptians understood this nightly journey as a powerful symbol of life itself. The sun's passage through darkness mirrored the human experience of struggle, death, and rebirth. It was a reminder that from the deepest shadows, light would always return. With it, hope and life. As Ra moved closer to the end of the Duat, the horizon began to glow faintly with the promise of dawn. The gates of the morning opened, welcoming the sun god back into the world of light. With a final burst of brilliance, Ra emerged triumphant, bathing the land in golden rays once more. The people of Egypt would watch the sunrise with reverence and gratitude, knowing that the eternal journey had succeeded again. The sun god had conquered chaos, and the cycle of life continued unbroken. As the radiant bark of Ra sailed deeper into the shadowed realm of the Duat, the environment around it grew ever more strange and mysterious. The comforting warmth of daylight was now replaced by an atmosphere thick with shadows, silence, and ancient secrets. The underworld was a vast labyrinth of mystical geography, verse of shimmering black water that reflected no light. Towering cliffs carved by unseen hands, vast deserts of shifting darkness, and endless plains where stars seemed to flicker. Closer, casting eerie glows, the journey through these realms was not straightforward. Each hour of the night revealed new trials and wonders, marking the sun's passage through the 12 divisions of the underworld. The Egyptians believed that time itself was woven differently in the Duat. Minutes and hours could stretch and contract, and the land was alive with magical forces beyond human understanding. In the earliest hours, Ra passed through a section of the Duat where spirits of the recently departed gathered. These souls were neither troubled nor restless. They were in a state of transition, waiting for judgment or passage to their eternal resting places. The spirits glimmered softly, like pale flames flickering in the dark, their forms shifting between shapes as they journeyed toward their destinies. The gods who ruled over the Duat's realms watched over these souls, guiding and protecting them. Anubis, the jackal-headed god of embalming and protector of graves, was often depicted standing near these spirits, ensuring their safe passage and preventing malevolent forces from disrupting the balance. His calm, watchful presence reminded all that death was not an end but a doorway to another stage of existence. As Ra's bark pressed onward, the journey grew more perilous. The light that emanated from the sun god began to dim, swallowed gradually by the thick darkness of the underworld. It was in these shadowed hours that the threat of Apep, the terrifying serpent of chaos, loomed. Largest Apep was the eternal adversary of Ra and the gods of order. Born from the primeval chaos before creation, this monstrous serpent was vast beyond measure, its body winding through the deepest pits and caverns of the Duat. Its scales were blacker than the starless sky, and its eyes glowed with a fiery hatred for all that was light and good. Every night, Apep sought to end Ra's journey by swallowing his bark whole, thus plunging the world into everlasting darkness and disorder. The battle between Ra and Apep was fierce and unyielding, a cosmic struggle representing the conflict between creation and destruction. Life and oblivion. Ra himself wielded the brilliant power of the midday sun even in the depths of night. From his throne aboard the bark, he radiated beams of scorching light that cut through the serpent's darkness. His voice boomed like thunder, and his presence was a blazing beacon against the shadows. Supporting Ra in this eternal combat were a host of gods and spirits. Mat, the embodiment of truth, justice, and harmony, was among them. Her presence was subtle but vital. She ensured that the laws of the universe were upheld, even in the heart of chaos. Without Mat's balance, the struggle might have tipped toward destruction. Thoth, the god of wisdom, magic, and writing, played a crucial role as well. With his ibis head and calm demeanor, he recited spells and sacred hymns to strengthen Ra's power and protect the bark. His knowledge of the mysteries of the cosmos was unparalleled, and his magic shielded the journey from many unseen threats. Other deities, such as Seth the god of storms and deserts sometimes joined the fight. Though Seth's nature was wild and unpredictable, he played a necessary part in keeping chaos in check. His fierce attacks against Apep helped ensure that the serpent could not gain the upper hand. Throughout the night, as the battle raged, the bark sailed through strange and varied landscapes. They passed through fields of stars that seemed to pulse with life, crossed lakes filled with shimmering waters that reflected the moon's ghostly glow, and navigated tunnels carved with ancient hieroglyphs that told stories of gods and heroes. Long past, at times, the underworld revealed places of peace and rest, enchanted groves where luminous flowers bloomed in the darkness, and hidden sanctuaries where gentle spirits sang quiet songs. These moments of calm were brief but vital reminders that even in the heart of night, beauty and hope endured. Yet, the ultimate goal of the journey was always to reach the eastern horizon, where the gates of dawn awaited. Here, the final hour of the Duat would open, allowing Ra to burst forth once again into the world of the living, renewing the cycle of day and night. This passage was both literal and symbolic. It represented not only the sun's daily rebirth, but also the eternal renewal of life and order against the constant threat of chaos. To the Egyptians, the nightly voyage was a profound lesson in resilience, the certainty that darkness would never have the final word as the night stretched on. The light aboard Rosbark grew gradually stronger, pushing back the shadows, inch by inch. The serpent, Apep, though relentless, was kept at bay by the combined might of Ra and his divine companions. The journey through the Duat was not just a test of power, but of wisdom, faith, and harmony. It was a sacred ritual that echoed the eternal truths of the universe, reminding all who believed that light, truth, and order were stronger than darkness, deceit, and destruction. And so, the sun god pressed on, hour by hour, through the mysterious depths of the underworld, carrying with him the hopes of all living beings, the balance of the cosmos, and the promise of a new dawn, as Ra's sacred bark pressed further into the depths of the Duat. The realm around it grew darker, the shadows thickening like a heavy cloak. The air was still, but the stillness was alive with unseen tension, as if the very fabric of this world trembled with the struggle between light and darkness. It was in these hours that Ra's journey became most perilous. The Duat was not simply a place of darkness and danger, was a realm of transformation, where the very nature of existence was tested and renewed. Each hour marked a passage through a different realm of the underworld, where ancient gods and spirits watched over the sacred processes of life, death, and rebirth. In 1 hour, Ra's bark drifted through fields filled with souls who had been judged by Osiris, the god of the afterlife and resurrection. These souls awaited their fates, some destined for eternal peace in the field of reeds, others to face trials for their misdeeds. Their forms shimmered faintly under the glow of Ra's light, a testament to the ongoing cycle of life beyond death. The presence of Osiris was felt deeply here. As ruler of the underworld, Osiris embodied the hope of rebirth and eternal life. His serene gaze was a beacon for those seeking redemption, and his judgment was the final step before souls could rest or continue their journey. But beyond this realm of judgment lay darker places where malevolent forces stirred. Ra's bark entered narrow, twisting canals lined with jagged rocks and swirling mists. These passages were haunted by creatures born from the nightmares of the cosmos, demons with fiery eyes, shadowy beasts with razor claws, and ghosts of those who had fallen into darkness without hope. It was here that Ra's divine protection was most crucial. The bark was shielded by spells and the presence of his loyal companions, but the danger was real. Every shadow could conceal an ambush. Every whisper could be the hiss of Apep's minions preparing to strike. The serpent, Apep, coiled deep within the underworld's darkest abyss, was always lurking, waiting for the moment to attack. His hatred for Ra was ancient and boundless. Each night, Apep attempted to engulf the sun god's bark in his crushing coils, aiming to extinguish the light and bring about eternal chaos. But Ra was not easily defeated. With every assault, he unleashed bursts of brilliant light that seared through the serpent's scales. The bark rocked violently as the battle raged, and the cries of gods and spirits filled the duat with their fierce determination. Among Ra's defenders was Sekhmet, the fierce lioness, goddess of war and healing. Her roar echoed across the underworld as she struck down demons and protected the bark from harm with claws sharp as the sun's rays and a heart burning with divine fire. Sekhmet was a formidable warrior against the darkness. Beside her stood Bastet, the graceful cat goddess, whose swift movements and sharp senses helped detect hidden dangers before they could strike. Together, these goddesses embodied the protective power of the sun, guarding Ra's passage through the perilous hours of night. As the bark moved onward, the landscapes of the duat shifted once again. The path took Ra and his companions through halls adorned with glowing hieroglyphs, ancient writings that shimmered with magical energy. These inscriptions told stories of creation, order, and the eternal struggle between light and shadow. It was said that these sacred writings were inscribed by Thoth himself to guide and protect the sun god's journey. The magic woven into the glyphs served as barriers against evil, illuminating the path through the darkness and reinforcing the power of Mat-S balance. In some parts of the duat, Ra's light seemed to fade almost completely, swallowed by the oppressive shadows, yet, even in these moments, the sun god's presence was a source of strength. The knowledge that dawn awaited beyond the darkest hours kept the bark moving steadily forward. The ancient Egyptians believed that this nightly journey was a reflection of the soul's path through trials, transformations, and ultimately, renewal. Just as Ra emerged each morning reborn, so too did the souls of the dead hope for a new life beyond death. As the final hours of the night approached, the battle with Apep reached its climax. The serpent's attacks became more desperate and violent, thrashing and striking with all his might to consume the sun. Yet Ra's brilliance only grew, his light brighter and fiercer than ever before. The gods and spirits aboard the bark joined their voices in a powerful chant, calling upon the forces of order and truth. Their prayers and magic surrounded Ra, like a shield, repelling Apep's darkness and forcing the serpent to retreat. With the serpent defeated for now, Ra's bark moved swiftly toward the eastern horizon. The gates of dawn loomed ahead, glowing softly with the promise of new beginnings. Beyond those gates lay the world of the living, ready to be bathed once more in the sun's renewing light. As Ra approached the threshold, the underworld began to change. The shadows lifted, replaced by soft glimmers of color, as the sky prepared to welcome the returning sun. The cycle of night was ending, and with it came the hope of life, warmth, and growth. Ra's journey through the Duat was not only a passage through space and time, but a profound symbol of the eternal dance between life and death, darkness and light. It was a story that the ancient Egyptians told to explain the rhythms of the natural world, the mysteries of existence, and the promise that light would always overcome shadow. As Ra's bark neared the end of its journey through the Duat, the air grew lighter, the oppressive shadows thinning like morning mist under the warmth of a rising sun. The gates of dawn, ancient and vast, stood before the sun god like an immense threshold crafted from radiant gold and shimmering with celestial light. These gates marked the boundary between the hidden underworld and the world of the living, the place where night would finally surrender to day. Passing through the gates was no simple act. It required the sun god to be at his fullest power, to carry the accumulated light and strength gained throughout the journey. The gods who accompanied Ra lent their power to bolster Himmat's balance, ensured harmony, Thoth's magic provided wisdom and protection, and Sekhmet's fierce spirit defended against any lingering threats. Beyond the gates stretched the horizon, glowing faintly with the first blushes of dawn. The darkness of night was behind, and the promise of renewal awaited. With a mighty surge, Ra's bark emerged from the Duat, bursting into the sky like a phoenix reborn. His light blazed across the heavens, illuminating the earth below in a golden embrace. Birds stirred in the trees, rivers sparkled under the sun's gaze, and the fields of Egypt awakened, bathed in warmth and life. This moment marked the victory of light over darkness, order over chaos, life over death. The cycle was complete, and yet it was only the beginning of a new day, a new journey to come. The ancient Egyptians revered this daily miracle. To them, Ra's journey was a divine assurance that despite the inevitable darkness, whether in night or in light would always return. It was a cosmic promise of rebirth, hope, and the unending flow of existence. As the sun climbed higher, Ra's power nourished the world. Plants grew, animals thrived, and humans flourished under his gaze. His journey through the underworld was a vital act that ensured the balance of the cosmos, the harmony of nature, and the continuation of life itself. At sunset, the cycle would begin anew. Ra would prepare once again for his descent into the Duat, ready to face the serpent Apep and all the dangers of the night. This eternal voyage was the heart of Egyptian cosmology, a profound story of resilience, courage, and the endless dance between darkness and light. And so, through endless nights and bright days, the sun god's journey continues, a timeless tale whispered on the winds of the desert and sung by the waters of the Nile. It is the story of creation, destruction, and renewal, the story of life itself. Tale 6, the story of Set and the Red Land long ago. In the time before kingdoms rose and before the Nile's waters shaped the fertile lands of Egypt, the world was a place of raw, untamed forces. The gods roamed freely, shaping the earth with their hands and wills. Among these primordial beings was Set, the god of storms, deserts, chaos, and the mysterious Red Land, the harsh wilderness beyond the lush Nile Valley. Set was unlike the other gods who favored order and harmony. His essence was wild, unpredictable, and fierce. Where others brought peace, Set brought storms and upheaval. The Red Land, which he ruled, was a vast expanse of burning sands and rocky deserts, where the sun scorched without mercy and the winds howled like wild beasts. It was a land that few dared enter, and fewer still could master. The ancient Egyptians divided their world into two great realms, the Black Land, or Kemet, the fertile banks of the Nile where life flourished, and the Red Land, or Deshret, the desert wastes ruled by Set, while the Black Land represented order, growth, and life. The Red Land was a place of danger, death, and transformation. Set's domain was essential yet feared. He was a god who embodied the chaotic forces of nature storms that could flood or scorch the earth, winds that could scatter crops, and sands that could bury cities. Yet, these forces were not without purpose. They tested the resilience of gods and mortals alike, forcing change and adaptation in a world that might otherwise grow stagnant. Set's story begins in a family of powerful gods, where balance and rivalry intertwined. Osiris, his brother, was the god of fertility, agriculture, and life. Osiris ruled over the Black Land, nurturing the earth and bringing prosperity to all who dwelt there. He was loved by gods and humans alike for his gentle nature and benevolent rule. Isis, their sister and Osiris's devoted wife, was a goddess of magic, healing, and motherhood. Together, Osiris and Isis represented life's nurturing and renewing forces, the cycle of planting, growth, harvest, and rebirth that sustained the people of Egypt. But Set's restless spirit and wild nature could not be contained by the calm harmony of his brother's realm. While Osiris brought peace and order, Set was drawn to the power of chaos and change. He believed the world needed more than gentle growth. It needed strength forged through conflict and transformation. Set's envy of Osiris grew with each passing day. The people loved Osiris for the life he brought, and even the gods admired his wisdom and fairness. Set, in contrast, was seen as dangerous and unpredictable, a force to be wary of but not embraced. One day, Set decided to challenge his brother's reign. He crafted a cunning plan born from jealousy and ambition. He created a magnificent chest, crafted with great skill and magic, designed to fit Osiris's body perfectly. At a grand feast held in honor of the gods, Set invited Osiris to lie down in the chest as part of a game. Osiris, trusting and unaware of Set's treachery, lay down in the chest. At that moment, Set and his followers sealed the chest tightly and cast it into the mighty Nile River. The river carried Osiris's body away, drifting far from the fertile lands and into the unknown depths. The world darkened with grief. Without Osiris, the fields withered, the Nile's waters grew restless, and the balance of life was broken. The people mourned their beloved king, and even the gods felt the weight of his absence. Yet, hope was not lost. Isis, fierce in her love and determination, set out to find Osiris's body. She journeyed across the land, searching the riverbanks and deserts, calling upon magic and ancient spells to aid her quest. Her search was long and arduous. She faced many dangers in the wilderness of the Red Land, scorching heat, deadly creatures, and the wrath of Set's own power. Yet she pressed on, driven by the hope of restoring life to the world. Finally, Isis found the chest hidden among the reeds along the river. Using her powerful magic, she revived Osiris, bringing him back from death. But Osiris could no longer remain among the living. He became the lord of the underworld, ruler of the realm where souls journeyed after death. Though Osiris's resurrection brought hope, it also deepened the divide between the brothers. Set remained a symbol of chaos and destruction forever, opposing the order Osiris represented. The tale of Set and Osiris is more than a story of rivalry. It is a tale of the necessary balance between creation and destruction, life and death, order and chaos. The Red Land, ruled by Set, was a reminder that beneath the beauty and harmony of life lies the wild, untamed forces that shape the world. Set's story also shows that power is not one-dimensional, though feared for his fury and unpredictability. Set was also a protector of the cosmic order. In the eternal struggle between light and darkness, Set stood as a warrior against the serpent Apep, defending Ra and ensuring the sun's daily rebirth through the endless dance of conflict and harmony. Set and his Red Land remind us that change is constant and necessary, and that within chaos lies the potential for renewal. With Osiris gone to the underworld and Isis left to mourn and raise their hidden son, Set claimed what he believed was his by right, the throne of Egypt, no longer merely the god of the deserts and storms. He now crowned himself king of all lands, ruling not only over the harsh Red Land, but also the fertile Black Land of the Nile Valley. But Set's reign was not like Osiris's. The peace and prosperity once known across the Nile began to shift. Where Osiris nurtured, Set demanded. Where Osiris guided with gentleness, Set ruled through fear and force. The Red Land crept forward like a shadow, its dry winds spilling into green fields, and its silence unsettling the once harmonious songs of the river villages. Still, Set was not without his strengths. He brought a different kind of power, yielding, decisive, commanding. He was a warrior, a hunter, a god who thrived in extremes. In the barren wastelands of the desert, he stood unchallenged, master of survival where no other god dared linger. His might was unrivaled, his endurance legendary. But as the years passed, a quiet resistance began to grow, far away from the palaces and temples, hidden deep within the reeds and papyrus marshes of the Nile Delta. Isis had given birth to Horus, the son of Osiris. She raised him in secret, veiled from the watchful eyes of Set and his loyalists. Horus grew not only in strength and stature, but also in understanding, learning of his father's legacy and the burden he would one day carry. Isis taught Horus the virtues of justice, balance, and leadership. She whispered to him the stories of Osiris, not only of his wisdom and gentleness, but also of his courage in the face of betrayal. Horus listened, and within him the fire of his father's cause took root. As Horus grew, the land itself seemed to hold its breath. The people, weary of Set's heavy hand and the slow encroachment of the Red Land into their fertile homes, began to look toward the horizon with hope. Rumors spread that Osiris's heir lived, that one day the rightful king would return to challenge the USURPER, and so came the time of reckoning. Horus, no longer a hidden boy, but a god grown strong, stepped forward to claim his place in the world. He stood before the divine court of the gods and declared his right to the throne. not with arrogance, but with the steady resolve of one born for justice, Set, proud and thunderous, refused to surrender. He laughed at the challenge, scorning the boy and the memory of Osiris alike. He demanded a contest, not a peaceful transfer of power. If Horus wished to claim Egypt, he would have to prove himself again and again. Thus began the legendary conflict between Horus and Set, a battle not merely of fists and weapons, but of wits, endurance, and divine trial. The gods convened as judges, uncertain of which path to favor, the raw strength and experience of Set, or the youthful promise and rightful bloodline of Horus. The battles were many, varied and strange. In one trial, the two gods transformed into hippopotami and fought beneath the Nile's waters, churning the river into froth. In another, they raced across the desert with stone boats, each testing their cunning. Time and again, Horus proved his worth, but Set's strength and tenacity could not be easily denied. As the years stretched on, so too did the struggle. At times, even the gods themselves were divided. Ra, the sun god, respected Set's strength and the role he played in protecting the world from Apep, the great serpent of chaos. But others, like Thoth and Hathor, saw in Horus a hope for restoration and healing, a return to the balance that once was. Isis, ever wise and ever patient, did not stand idly by. She worked behind the scenes, persuading gods, gathering support, and revealing the truth of Set's treachery. In one tale, she tricked Set himself into admitting his guilt, disguising herself and drawing from him a confession that she brought before the divine court. The gods deliberated. The conflict had gone on for too long. The balance of the world itself trembled under the weight of uncertainty. Finally, judgment was given. Horus, son of Osiris and Isis, rightful heir to the throne, was named king of the Black Land. He would rule the fertile Nile Valley, restore harmony, and guide the people with wisdom and care. Set, though defeated, was not cast into shadow. Instead, he was honored in a different way, recognizing his strength and role in the cosmos. The gods appointed Set as the eternal guardian of Rosbark. Every night, as Ra journeyed through the Underworld, it would be Set who stood at the prow of the solar boat, spear in hand, facing down Apep in battle. His fury, once a tool of selfish ambition, would now serve a greater purpose, protecting creation itself from the maw of chaos. Thus, even in defeat, Set was not truly cast aside. His place in the world was affirmed, not as a ruler of people, but as a force of cosmic necessity. The Red Land would remain his, a place of testing, of forging the strong, and reminding all of the presence of chaos that must be tamed but never ignored. And so the world found balance again. Horus ruled wisely. The Black Land flourished, and the Red Land stood as it always had, vast, wild, and whispering the name of Set across the endless sands. Though Set no longer wore the crown of Egypt, his role in the cosmos was far from diminished. As the Red Land still stretched in every direction beyond the Nile Valley untamed and defiant, so too did Set remain, a necessary force in the world's grand balance. In the time after Horus's ascension to the throne, the land began to heal. The Nile flowed gently again, its waters gliding over the floodplains, nourishing crops and filling granaries. Farmers tilled the black soil, giving thanks to Osiris for fertility and to Horus for protection. the temples sang with praise, and peace returned to the Black Land. But none forgot the Red Land, beyond the reach of the river's grace. The Red Land remained as wild and perilous as ever. It was more than a geographic reality, was a spiritual one. The Egyptians believed that this harsh terrain was not cursed, but rather a sacred and challenging space, a realm that belonged to Set and echoed with his spirit. It was a place where only the strong survived, where only the brave ventured. Merchants crossing its dunes, travelers marching to foreign lands, and soldiers defending borders, all called on Set to lend them strength. To the ordinary people, Set became more than a god of chaos. He was the protector of boundaries. He was the fierce guardian at the edge of order, the one who stood against all threats from beyond. He was storm and savior, wrath and resistance. Without him, the world would collapse under the weight of stillness, vulnerable to the creeping darkness that lay outside Mat, the eternal order. And so Set took on his new role not in shame, but with renewed purpose. At night, while Horus watched over the living, Set stood aboard the solar bark, with Ra sailing through the 12 gates of the underworld known as the Duat. Each night was a perilous journey. In the deepest hours of darkness, the serpent Apep rose from the watery chaos of Nun, its vast body coiled with malice, fangs dripping with venom, eyes burning with hatred for all that lived and breathed. Apep did not bring mere brought non-existence, the unraveling of reality itself. If it ever succeeded in devouring Ra, there would be no dawn, no light, no life. And so each night, as the stars shifted above, Set stood ready. When the serpent rose, it was Set who met it with unflinching ferocity. He bore a great iron spear, forged in the fires of divine will, and leapt into battle with a roar that echoed through the Duat. Lightning coursed through his veins. Sand whipped into the storm around him, and his cries shook the caverns of the Underworld. He fought not for glory, not for rule, but because he alone was strong enough to stand between order and annihilation. The battles were not always victorious. Sometimes Apep slipped past, coiling around the sun's path, and for a moment the bark dimmed. On those days, the mortal world experienced eclipses, or the sun rose more slowly, weakly. But Set always fought back, always hurled himself at the serpent with renewed strength, until Apep recoiled and Ra could rise again. This cycle continued night after night, a rhythm as vital as the flow of the Nile itself. The people above never saw Set struggle, but they honored him in their own ways. In desert outposts and border fortresses, his name was carved into stone. Warriors carried his symbols into battle, invoking his fury when facing overwhelming odds. Merchants crossing foreign sands whispered prayers to him, asking for endurance and protection. Temples to Set were fewer than those of Osiris or Horus, but they were no less sacred. In the far south, in the dry lands near Nubia, great stones were raised in his name. Priests of Set knew the power of silence and survival. They did not promise comfort, but they offered resilience. In his name, the wind that stripped flesh from bone could also clear the mind. The sun that scorched the land could also purify, but Set's story was not only written in the cosmos, it was also embedded in the hearts of those who walked the boundaries of life. Set's energy lived in those who defied the odds, who wandered into the unknown and returned changed. He was the god of foreigners, of those who lived in exile, or isolation. Misunderstood but necessary. Egypt itself, wise and ancient, came to accept that its survival depended not just on order, but on balance between Osiris and Set, the river, and the desert, life and death. Set was not cast out. He was transformed. His chaos was no longer seen only as a threat, it became a challenge. And with that challenge came the invitation to grow, to adapt, to become more. Many legends arose from the Red Land in the centuries that followed. Stories of travelers who vanished into storms only to return bearing visions. Tales of oases found by those who followed vultures and jackals. Visions of Set riding the wind, his face half lit by thunderclouds, watching over the edge of the world like a sentinel. One such tale tells of a young soldier lost in the desert after his caravan was destroyed. With no water and no hope, he collapsed among the rocks. As the sun began to set and the cold winds rose, he thought he saw a great shadow approaching, tall and red-eyed, with a spear in hand and a jackal's cry on the wind. He did not fear. He did not plead. He only whispered, "Set." The next morning he awoke beside a spring, his wounds bound with palm fibers. Around him the sand had formed a protective ring. No tracks led in or out. The soldier returned home, not as a man broken by chaos, but as one remade by it. And from then on, he bore Set's sigil on his shield, not as a mark of defiance, but as a tribute to strength forged through fire. Thus, Set's legend endured not only as the god of chaos and storms, but as the guardian of the edge, the master of the Red Land, and the eternal challenger of darkness. Time, as it does for gods and mortals alike, continued its steady, eternal march. The Black Land thrived under the rule of Horus, whose justice and wisdom restored Egypt's sacred harmony. Fields yielded generous harvests, temples filled with offerings, and songs of renewal echoed through every city and village. Yet always, just beyond the cultivated edge, the Red Land waited, vast, untamed, and eternal. Set, god of desert winds and thunder's fury, remained where he was always meant to be, not a villain in exile, but a god of purpose. His name was etched into the fabric of the world, into the places that were not soft and green, but sharp, dry, and raw with power. It was in those places, on the very edge of order, that the truth of Set revealed itself most clearly. The ancient Egyptians believed that balance, or Mat, was the soul of existence. But Mat did not mean peace without challenge or order without tension. It meant equilibrium, a careful harmony between forces. For there to be fertility, there must be drought. For there to be birth, there must be death. For the light of Ra to rise each day, someone must keep the chaos of night at bay. Set was that force. In the eternal underworld, each night he battled Apep without recognition, without songs or garlands. His was a lonely labor, an unending struggle waged in darkness, and yet he never faltered. Each time the serpent rose, Set met it, roaring. Unafraid, the people of Egypt began to understand. Chaos could not be destroyed. It was not the enemy of existence, but its mirror. Suppress it too much, and life grew stagnant. Let it roam freely, and all crumbled. But held in check, held with strength and resolve, it became a source of growth. The storm destroyed, yes, but it also cleared the dead wood, watered the waiting seeds, and reshaped the land. So it was with Set. The priests of Mat began to speak of him not as the god of evil, but as the necessary force of challenge. Just as Horus protected the pharaoh, Set protected the boundaries of Egypt, literal and cosmic alike. He ruled no temple in Thebes or Memphis, but he was present in every watchtower, every march into foreign sands, every moment of trial when a person was forced to confront something beyond their comfort. In time, festivals were even held in his name, not grand or delicate like those of Osiris or Isis, but wild and elemental. Bonfires lit in the desert, dances beneath the stars, and trials of strength and endurance. Warriors honored him before battle. Nomads whispered his name in storms. Even the pharaohs, symbols of Horus incarnate, began to carry symbols of Set on their crowns, reminders that to lead was to face adversity and command strength. Not only peace, but Set's transformation was not only in the minds of mortals. Within the divine, his nature to evolved. Ra himself spoke of Set with pride. He who fights when all else flees, Ra said. He who stands alone and does not fall. And though Horus ruled in light, it was Set who ruled in shadow, not in shame, but in partnership. The two gods, once enemies in myth, came to embody the duality of kingship. Horus was the symbol of divine ruler, falcon soaring high, clear-eyed, righteous. Set was the symbol of necessary strength, the unknown, the unpredictable, the power to adapt, where one watched over peace, the other prepared for war. Where one represented inheritance, the other represented merit, and together they upheld the throne. The great balance, then, was not between good and evil, but between order and chaos, between what is known and what is possible. Set became the testing stone. His challenges sharpened the minds of sages, the resolve of warriors, the spirit of those who wandered too far from comfort. In him, people saw the face of the storm and learned not only to endure it, but to grow stronger because of it. And perhaps that is why his domain, the Red Land, was never tamed. It remained as it was from the beginning, fierce, mysterious, endless. Its winds could erase tracks in minutes, its sun could blister skin, and its silence could unnerve even the bravest soul. But within that vastness lay something sacred. It was a reminder that life does not thrive without risk. That safety, though precious, is not everything. That the soul must be tempered, not only soothed. The Egyptians, wise and ancient, built their civilization in the narrow stretch between the two extremes, river and desert, black land and red. They understood what the modern world often forgets, that to exist is to balance. That true strength lies in knowing the limits of comfort and walking beyond them, and in the myths they passed down from generation to generation. From priest to child, they told the tale of Set, not just as the usurper of Osiris or the rival of Horus, but as the ever-vigilant guardian of the edge, the one who dared dwell where others would not, the one who fought for creation, unseen and uncelebrated, because someone had to dot in the heart of the desert, far from the Nile's reach. Stands a stone carved into it, faded by sand and time, are the words once offered by a forgotten priest, praise to Set, Lord of storms and silence. He who breaks the path, so we may build again. He who holds the serpent at bay, so the sun may rise. Not the king, but the keeper of the gate. Not the peace, but the price we pay for it. And so ends the tale of Set and the Red Land, not a story of villainy, nor of simple redemption, but of transformation and truth. For even the god of chaos, when understood, becomes part of the eternal harmony, and in the winds that howl through the desert still, his voice remains a challenge, a warning, and a promise.